What's going on, Rockstar?
Hi, how are you?
Absolutely fantastic. How about you?
I want to see you. Oh, I thought it would be my great opportunity to actually see you. You're cheating, Eric. At least you can see me.
Yeah, man, you know, one of these things that always happens when you get the opportunity to meet people is that we need to take more time to hear stories. And when I came across your book, I just kept going, I didn't know. I wish I would have known. Why didn't I know? Why didn't I ask questions?
Why would you have known until you read my book?
Well, you're so true about that because, I mean, and what an inspiring book. I mean, this is one of those books that, sure, you've got this history, but I see it as you're also speaking to the next level of where broadcasting is growing because it needs the leadership values that you have planted.
Thank you so much, Arrow. That is so much a part of the purpose of writing it. And I'm so grateful that you got it.
The name of the book is It's About Time. How many people do you know in your broadcasting career that have said, well, it's about time?
Many. It's not a unique phrase.
Well, I love the way that you describe it as being an adventure because I've always called broadcasting a game. It's like, how are we going to win this game? But I love, how about an adventuresome game?
Yeah, exactly. And it has been. And I've been very, very blessed. I've had a lot of good luck on the way. But it is an adventure. And as you know from the book, so many twists and turns in my life, starting from being an actor and moving into television and being a producer and going into management and still producing. And it's an adventure. And the greatest advice I could give to people getting into the business is just be open to whatever the next adventure is.
When you speak of the business side of it, though, I've got to ask you the question in the way that when I went into the business of radio, in other words, when I became the production director for iHeartRadio, all of a sudden it was like, wow, this is not about me doing a performance. This is about businesses. Did you go through a transition like that, too, where it was like, oh, my God, this is about all of us now?
As a producer, because I was always very responsible for budgets, I don't think it was a huge transition for me. It was and while I was producing, I was also program administrator in Chicago. And then when I moved into program directing, I still stayed as an executive producer of all our shows. So I never had to give up one for the other. Mm-hmm. And I was always very budget conscious. I wish I was as budget conscious for myself as I am for the companies that I work with. So it wasn't jarring for me. It was something that I was fairly used to doing.
Do you believe in the philosophy of that, try to be a part of all four corners? Because for you to stay on as executive producer and program director, that's always been my thing when I teach future broadcasters is figure out how you can become a part of all the corners.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. My life is much richer because I was able to do that. I can't imagine. It saved the company money, too, that I was both executive and program director. But it fed my creative side. And I would not have been as good a program director if I wasn't able to do both. So absolutely, all four corners is a brilliant way to put it. Arrow, I'm so glad you do that.
When did you start feeling it inside your mind, body, and soul that you were going to be a life coach? Because I think that so many broadcasters miss that calling. They've got it, but they've made the choice of, no, that's a little bit too heavy for me.
I realized that throughout my life, I've been a life coach. I just never formalized it. So when things were a little bit calmer, when I was back in LA where I am now, I decided to formalize it more and also put that on my resume and encourage people to contact me as a life coach.
Do you see yourself as being that life coach or that universal person more, and just broadcasting became just another place to plant your voice?
Ooh. I'm not sure. That is another one of your fabulous questions, which you're so famous for. I didn't think of my work in broadcasting as life coaching, but now that you say that, Arrow, it absolutely could be. And as you know, in the book one of the things I did was I went to a lot of colleagues and friends and asked them to send me their memories. And the reflection of their memories in the book is kind of that I did a lot of life coaching for them. So I think you put that together more than I have. So thank you.
You've also got a new book that's going to be coming out, and listeners need to understand that your journey is a continuation. Which I can, in reading this book, it's everything that I believe that you are. This next one is Let's Be Peace. It's a spiritual and alternative health. That means that you've gone into the darkness and said, "Look, I found some light. I'm going to share it with you, but you're going to have to pay attention and you're going to have to activate it."
Yes. What I've decided to do with the next book is to not only do my journey as I have it in It's About Time, but I'm going to make it into a collaborative book. Mm-hmm. So many of the teammates that I've had that has helped me grow and be in my journey, I'm going to ask them to either answer questions or to write a chapter, so that this book will also not only be what my journey is, which I will have in the book, but it will also be some concrete information about different modalities and things that people can do to expand their ability to take care of themselves. I'm a big believer that we're our own best doctors. Wonderful teammates, wonderful medical people, wonderful alternative and functional medicine people. But it's really important for us to go inside and know what's right for us, because what's right for me is not necessarily right for you.
So true.
And that's the purpose of the book.
So true, because I'm a daily writer. I've been doing that for 29 years. And it's like, it's not that I'm spilling my guts out on a piece of paper. Those are future notes. Those are for somebody else somewhere along the line. And it's like, okay, I went through it, but figure out how you're going to make your way through it by going through the experiences that I had.
Exactly.
To be on that page, though, Karen, come on. I mean, there's so much power and energy on that page. And it's like, how did I even get to hold on to this?
Through great good fortune. I mean, I do believe I've been guided throughout my life, which I did not realize until I wrote the book. In writing, I just realized I've been very, very fortunate. I happen to now believe in angels and guides, and yes. I believe that I have been guided since birth. I've been guided to make the twists and turns that work for me. And so I've been very fortunate that way. And I think whether you call it your gut or your guidance or angels, what I hope I help people do is to go inside and understand who they are and what is good for them.
You're speaking my street when you start talking about spirit guides and keepers and things like that, because I live in this forest in South Charlotte where Native Americans used to live inside these rocks, not even 2 miles from here, and it was back in the 1400s. And I still believe that's what called me to this forest, because I was a listener. And it's like, okay, now what are you going to do with it?
Oh my God, Arrow! I had no idea that. Yes, I'm a very big believer in American Indian heritage. Probably believed in that before I did in my angels. And I do believe that my ancestors are quite a few of them are Native American, and I so honor the traditions. Just the way the Native Americans have always honored the earth and honored their fellow beings if we just go back to that, we will all have peace, and that's why let's be peace is the phrase that I'm using, because I believe that once we're peace inside, there will be peace in the world. It's each one of us at a time becoming peace.
But wouldn't you say that what you've done with broadcasting as an executive producer, as a program director, that's also honoring the earth, because you still had to have that leadership quality. You knew when things were going wrong and how it was going to affect that viewer or listener?
Yes, and I was very fortunate to have a forum to be able to do that. One of my policies as program director and executive producer was we would never do a documentary unless we could find some solutions. They might be the only solution, but if we're going to do it, I never believed in pointing out a problem and just leaving it there. I always insisted that my producers and myself found some pathway that there are solutions out there, because I think it's important for us to be hopeful too in the documentaries that we do. So I was very, very clear about that, and very grateful that I miss not having that forum now. I mean, I come up with an idea and I have to sell to somebody else. We're just get it on the air, which was a lot of fun.
That is so true. I mean, and don't you use like old tricks that program directors before you would use on you, and you just sit back and you go, oh my God, it's just him, it's her. It's, oh God, I'm using their things.
There have been many before us, and there'll be many after us, and hopefully we'll help them too.
How did you gain the confidence to go from city to city? Because once I moved to Charlotte, it was like, I can't do that anymore. And thank God for Charlotte growing into the city that it has, because we went from market number 37 to market number 23. And then here came the internet. So, I mean, it's like, how did you find that confidence to do that?
It was really fairly simple for me. I grew up in Chicago, and I think there's something about the Midwestern ethic that makes you, that makes you able to understand, the East Coast and then the West Coast. So I'm kind of like coming from the middle. I had always wanted to go to Los Angeles. I somehow, especially when I was an actor, I thought that was part of my path. And I had an uncle who was a writer for the Wall Street Journal, who always wanted to go to California. He never made it, but I did. And New York, I had relatives in New York. When I was in theater, I used to go visit them, and I would take the train to Broadway and to off Broadway to see theaters. So I already had a base in New York. So that was very easy. Plus, who would give up being program director at the biggest market? So that part was a no-brainer. New York, fine.
Program directors are, it's like you build the teams, you build the atmosphere that people tap into, but viewers and listeners don't understand. It wasn't just that talent on the air that they were attracted to. It took the whole entire process to make it happen. And as a program director, you were the glue. Yes.
And sometimes very, very well sticking glue, and sometimes not so well. And every program director is different depending on the structure. And right now, program directors, I was in an era where program directors really were able to accomplish more. Yeah. I was able to purchase the programming. I was able to, for the non-news, non-network programming. And I was able to produce programming, and the directors reported to me and operations reported to me. Now program directors basically in many markets are more in the promotion end, and promotion. I was not in that end at all. And happy for that. So it is quite different. But yeah, I was able to dabble in my background in Chicago as program administrator and operations and facilities. The path had led me to be able to do all of that. And I was fortunate enough to have a wonderful mentor who was my station manager when I got to New York, Dick Lovo, who allowed me to do all those things. So I was very fortunate.
Were you able to foresee the future for television in the way that radio people began to understand that it's like, oh my God, here's this big change that's happening. How do I prepare for it? Most radio people dug in and said, I'm not going to go down with a sinking ship, or they were going to go down with it. But I mean, what about you with television?
Oh my gosh, I certainly didn't see where it is today. That it would all go streaming, and I think I mentioned in the book that I had been trying to do a cable and broadcast states health and wellness station. Mm-hmm. And so I still thought that was when I left New York, I still thought that was the way. I did not realize that it would move into a totally different genre of streaming and so many more options, actually, because now along with doing the book for Let's Be Peace, I'll do a podcast and a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. So I now know I'll be able to get that message out in a less structured way and a less demanding of finances way that I really didn't see, back when I left WNBC in New York. So I don't think I don't know that I'd say I was dug in, but I really didn't see the future. And I was not a technology person. So I certainly didn't. The internet was just starting when I left. And so I didn't really see where it was going.
The only reason why I even jumped in that area was because I was looking for newer ways to get advertisers, more time, more than 30 seconds, more than, than a 60-second commercial. And I thought, man, what is podcasting? I don't know what that is, but I can bring more money to advertising. And I'll never forget iHeartRadio looking at me going, I don't know what you're doing. Just figure it out and we'll work it out.
So you were quite ahead of your time.
Yeah, but it was only because of a commercial. It was a Camaro commercial, and they said Wi-Fi is now in the Camaro. And I remember sitting up going, oh, my God, I got to become a part of that. If Wi-Fi is going to be in cars, that's the power of choice for listeners.
Oh, of course. Oh, how smart of you. I didn't see any of that.
Now, when you put together a book called It's About Time, and did you use a writing instrument or did you type everything in? Because with that journalism background that you've got and that storytelling ability, did it come from a pen?
I did it all. I have very poor writing. I could be a doctor, though. How bad? So I did, and I've been journaling for 25 years.
Nice.
So I did it all on the computer. I did it all on Word.
How did you keep the perfectionist away then? Because you know what it's like when you're looking at those words on a screen.
I'm pretty good at letting go.
Okay.
And I did that. I had several people, do some editing for me in terms of language and stuff. I have a sister who's very smart that way, and a friend in the United Kingdom. But I'm not that much of a perfectionist. I literally, when I sat down to write the book, I literally just kind of let it flow. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of came out.
Did it release you from some of those corners in the way that we all have those people that are around us that we didn't always agree with? We just knew that we had to work it out.
Did it release me? What do you mean by that?
In other words, it's I still have radio nightmares of moments, and it's like, okay, how could I have worked that out better to where things, would have been a little bit smoother, or if I would have just kind of stepped to the side and said, all right, let's create a better solution here rather than challenging the system. And I'll give you a good example of that. I'll never forget an operations manager telling me, quit caring for what you're putting into the commercials. We don't care. What we want you to do, it's about cash flow. And when you want to bring quality to the client, then you're getting in the way of the cash flow.
That does remind me of a wonderful story. I had a wonderful general manager in New York, and he used to tell me, Karen, this is not brain surgery. And so it's a similar kind of thing. I was caring too much, but the best part is years later, I was talking to some people who had it was in Orlando, they had a health and wellness channel, which unfortunately didn't make it. But I was talking to them about being their program director. And when I walked in for the interview, they were doing brain surgery. and it just kind of came full circle. They were doing brain surgery.
Don't you think this book is coming out at a really great time in the way that Brendan Fraser this past week pretty much took the words right off your front cover there when he said it's about time? After 30 years of silence, it's about time.
Yes, yeah. And then I should write him and thank him for that. Hopefully that will make more people read it.
So what is next? Do you go on to a bigger, stronger book tour? How do you make that connection now with readers who and you're going to take them behind the scenes, and you're going to be like the wizard behind the curtain now?
I do want to do speaking engagements. Thank you for asking. I've reached out to a couple of people that I know at the university levels about doing speaking engagements, and I'm going to start that. I've been very conservative in terms of travel over the last 3 years, but starting this fall, I'm going to do that. So it'll be speaking engagements. It'll be going to colleges. I've already approached both the libraries that are near me in LA. So it's really getting out there with the public to let them know about the journey and about the book, and to let them know about the next path too. But I really am. I'm very active, as you know, from the book at Columbia College in Chicago.
Yep.
And so I'm able to work with students through that, and we have a mentorship program that I'm very involved in. So that's and the book came partially from Columbia College Chicago graduates who are kids who were graduating said, to me, you got to write a book about how to win an Emmy. And I said, well, I can't write a book about that because it's not very quantitative, and plus the Academy would not let me use that title, which I did ask them, and they wouldn't. But they kind of they said, write the book and we'll buy it. So I find it was during the pandemic. It was in 2021. And I said, okay, people have asked me to write this book, but now's the time to do it.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, I can't wait to see the numbers of the young future leaders in any type of broadcast programming, because there's a lot of TikTokers, YouTubers that have no direction, and somehow, some way, this has got to get into their hands so they can start understanding what reaching a viewer is all about. Thank
you so much, Arrow. Thanks for helping me get the word out.
Absolutely. So where can people go to find out more about you?
My website is Karen, Karen, Lee, Lee, Cohen, Cohen.com. And you can actually, or go to Amazon and put in my name and you can get the book there. But if you go to my website, you'll find out more about me and also about, there's a link where you can go to Amazon to buy the book.
Sweet. So when you release the next book, I want to talk to you again. And more importantly, when you get that podcast going, I host an iHeart channel called Pod Crashing, which is all about introducing listeners to new podcasts.
Oh, that's wonderful, Errol. Thanks for letting me know.
Absolutely.
I will be back.
I mean, if Joe Elliott from Def Leppard can come be on my show 9 times, you got 8 more times to hurry up and catch up.
You got it. Thanks so much, Errol. This is just delightful. You're wonderful.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. I work on that. You too. Okay.